What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to Best in Media, our Friday Buckeye Roast. Got my guy Pat from Minister Sports. Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Q. It's a Friday. It's the weekend. I'm ready to get after it.
Yeah, I'm ready too. It's like 80 outside for now till the sun comes up. I'm in a good mood.
See, it's rainy. It's rainy here in Columbus, but that's hopefully we get a little better weather the rest of the weekend.
Hopefully, let me start with a shout out. Our guy Dylan was the first one in the chat. So Dylan's in there. Let me throw an OH in there. I got Marcus threw an OH in there. So let me get an IO in the chat. Good morning, everybody. Got a packed show for y'all today. We're going to talk this weekend. We got Ohio State coming up. It's Michigan State going into conference play. Feels like the season is moving. Pat, we week 4 already. It's conference play. The season's going fine. So we will jump into that shortly. But before we do that, everybody, I want you to like that video. If you are on Twitter, go ahead and throw a like and retweet in there for us. And if you're in the community, do that as well. If you're not in the community, let us know. We will get you in there. And we are on audio platforms, so podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Do that for us. And let's jump into it. So a little bit of pre-show for you, Pat. We will start here. So, don't know how much Barstool Sports you watch, but I'm sure it'll find you. If you don't find it, Dave Portnoy said yesterday that he's tired of the Michigan quarterback struggles. He said, "Look, I will pledge $1 million to $3 million a year in the transfer portal. Go out and find Michigan a quarterback." But I just want to get your instant reaction to that. What do you think? Michigan now has $3 to go get the best player in the nation at the quarterback position.
I mean, that's all good, but he realized that Michigan can't develop quarterbacks. Like that's not gonna change the the whole reasoning why quarterbacks aren't going to Michigan in the first place, because they run the ball and they play that NFL style of offense. Like they don't develop quarterback play. So that's cool that he's going to offer $3 million to sign whatever quarterback he wants, but like the quarterback still has to choose to come to Michigan and play there. Right. I mean, they just don't develop quarterbacks. So I don't see why he thinks that this, just paying the top quarterback is going to work, because at the end of the day, the athlete has to choose to go there, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's why this lets me know the recruiting and development part might just be out the window. He said, "You'll develop them, we will pay for them." So theoretically, if he had $3 million this year that he was going to throw to quarterbacks, the list of guys he can't afford Shador. That guy, he's out the way. He costs too much.
Too pricey.
Yeah, he's too pricey. So he might be able to get Arch at $3.1 million. Quinn Ewers is 2.2, so we can get him. Jalen Milroe is 2.2, Nico's 1.9, and Cam Ward is 1.9. So at least 4 quarterbacks that are best in the nation, he might be able to afford them. They don't have Jackson Dart up here, but I would think he can afford them as well. But yeah, this is like you said, this is more of a shot to development and recruiting. Do you think the way Michigan is going right now, do they get back to developing and recruiting quarterbacks? Or do you think JJ is just an anomaly?
I mean, I don't know. It's looking like JJ is an anomaly, because if you go back to 20, I mean, I'm trying to think of the last like quarterback prospect they had. I mean, Shea Patterson ended up being a bust. I mean, you're going back to John O'Korn, Wilton Spate, all those guys. I mean, they were just known for not having an established quarterback presence for the longest time. And JJ kind of, we thought that maybe that was kind of the, turning of the tides for Michigan. But you're looking at it this year, and oh boy, it's tough to watch, man. I mean, it's like what was so frustrating about last week's game is that if you're USC, they're not going to throw the ball. Yeah. They're still able to move the ball on you. Like, just stack the box each time and, bring the safeties downfield. And it was just frustrating to watch, because you knew what they were going to do every time. And so I can't even imagine what it's like as a Michigan fan being, not even knowing if you're going to be able to throw a 10-yard pass downfield. I mean, it's got to be maddening.
Yeah, no, that's facts. Back in the video game days, this is where I would just run field goal block safe every time.
Literally, that is the 100%. That's got to be the game plan for every team moving forward. Field goal block safe.
Just give me 6 D linemen, and we'll figure out the rest. We do have an early super chat from my guy Charles Green. Let me show that. He says, Shout out to Niles, Little Dragons versus Girard. So shout out to them this weekend. Let them go ahead and get that dub. Appreciate my guy Charles Green, who's always in here, and everybody who's always in here every morning, making it easier to wake up. It's never easy, but making it a little easier to wake up for me. And shout out to Posh. I see her in there, who is the member. We greatly appreciate that. So it has been a wild weekend of transfer portal. Actually, I don't know if I'd ever felt like I'd say that in week 4 of the season, or really week 5.
Yeah.
It's been a wild
new norm of college football, though. This is it.
Yeah, so we have Bear Alexander adding his name from USC. Bear Alexander, who you may have known, transferred from Georgia a couple, so it was now 2 seasons ago. We left Georgia, went to USC, heard he was getting a nice little payday, heard he fell out with the locker room over there. So he goes to USC, obviously a big-time recruit, 5-star, all everything D lineman. And now he is out in the middle of the season. We obviously know what's going on with UNLV. Max Sluka said, hey, look, you promised me $100K. You gave me 3.
So I'm out of here.
a little less than 100 there. So I'm out. The running back shortly hops out after that. Pat, just want to get your instant reaction. Like, how are you feeling about these opt-outs in the middle of the season? And this something you ever saw coming?
I don't know. I mean, something I never would have saw coming years ago, but now given the current state of college football, like, it's not surprising that these things are happening. And I think this won't be the last we see of it. As just like the athlete in me, it's just like, how can you quit on your team and your teammates like that in the middle of a season, especially UNLV? Like, you're 3-0. There's talks, like, you've already beat Houston and Kansas. There's talks of you guys being that sleeper team now with the automatic G5 bid for the playoffs. Like, there's talk of you guys being that team going to the playoffs, and you're the starting quarterback of the team, and you're just going to quit in the middle of the season. I get it. Like, that whatever, clearly there was some miscommunication in terms of the NIL, but it's like, if anything, trust that stuff will figure itself out as the season plays on. Like, you'll get your bag if you keep on winning. And that's my biggest gripe with it. But honestly, I did a little deep dive into Matthew Sluka earlier this week when that news broke. UNLV might be better off without him at quarterback. He has been terrible throwing the ball this year. He's dead last in all of Division I in adjusted completion percentage. He's completing like just under 50% of his passes on the year. So I honestly think, you know what, if I were his teammates and he pulled that shit, I'd be like, you know what, good riddance. Our backup's probably better than you anyway.
Yeah, hopefully for their sake. We did our first edition of bracketology on this show, and in the top 12, UNLV is predicted to currently make the playoffs as it stands. So that's definitely big time. And I'm too, like, I thought, I was like, in Vegas, like, we can't get this NIL done. Somebody go put some money on black. Like, talk to the casinos, like, local real estate, borrow some money, man. We can,
seriously.
Like, I'm telling you, Pat, they could fly us in. We could have this done, and he could play by Saturday. They just
absolutely
right now. So that is hard to believe. But I have a couple reactions from coaches around the nation. So Brian Kelly and Kirby Smart both weighed on this, and I'll read it for you. So we'll start with Brian Kelly. He, reacting to the Math Sluka situation, said the NIL, because it becomes third party, you can't really control it. So his worry is now NIL getting outside, not really regulated in these states along with the university, that becoming a problem. And Kirby Smart says, I can tell you, I don't think this will be the last. So my follow-up question here, now that somebody has done this, now that the rabbit hole has been opened, there's really no alignment with most universities and the NIL. It's kind of a separate thing here. Do you think this becomes a regular in the seasons to come, or do you feel like there's some kind of regulation, Congress will put something down, like something will happen to keep this from happening? Because obviously money is now on the line. If you have, think about this. We're rolling. It's rolling to the national championship game. Ohio State's in there. Will Howard's like, you gave me $1 million, but y'all are about to make $50 million off this game. I'm not playing unless you up the bid. Do you feel like something like that can happen?
I doubt it, but again, you're not wrong. There's definitely a possibility of something like that happen as the season progresses. I feel like in terms of the bigger schools like Ohio State, the Georgias, the Alabamas, I feel like they're all over that kind of stuff to make sure that stuff doesn't happen. That's why I'm not surprised we're seeing it at a school like UNLV that, isn't that dominant powerhouse in college football. that maybe, you know, made some promises they couldn't keep, thinking that they were going to generate revenue in certain ways where they didn't. So that's why I don't see it happening at a school like Ohio State. But I don't think this is the last of it for sure. I think we're going to see this issue arise, especially in those mid-tier programs, the Group of Five programs. I could see other star players being like, "Hey, wait a second, we're having a great year, and my valuation," because now they have this, because the athletes can see what they're valued, and they're like, "Wait a second, I'm valued 5 times as much as you're paying me. I'm going to sit out until you pay me that money." It's just, I could totally see that this continuing to happen.
Yeah, I got Chris in the chat talking about a CBA is next and a players union. I'm not too worried about in this scenario, let's say like a Will Howard. I'm not too worried about kind of your star quarterback because we know they're taking care of the guys who are in the limelight. What I am worried about is you're starting center or guard. Like, yeah, I'm not making much of anything. We talked about Carson Hinsman, and he talked about going into the Missouri game that they weren't really making much on the O line. So that's more where it's like the right guard may be like, yeah, I've made like 15 grand this season. We play Georgia tomorrow. I'm gonna need, I'm gonna need something.
No, it's true. And you're seeing like, I think it was Riley Leonard at Notre Dame, whatever NIL package he got, he made sure that his linemen were included in it. I think it was with Dick's Sporting Goods. But I'm pretty sure it was Riley Leonard where he made sure his linemen were included in the NIL package and stuff. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's one thing for your quarterback to take care of you, but also like, yeah, how about the school just get me some NIL deals? Why am I relying on my quarterback to get me NIL deals? So, yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, you would hope that again, like Ohio State's taking care of all this so that this doesn't become an issue down the season. But now you're planting these seeds in my head. I'm like, oh God, we're going to be without Donovan Jackson during the playoffs because he's not getting paid enough.
Well, if we say it now, they'll watch the show and they'll be like, oh, wait, let's make sure we get that covered before it becomes a problem.
Oh man.
Definitely a crazy week off the field in college football, but we certainly have a crazier week on the field in college football this weekend. We're going to hop into the games in a second. Just want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Y'all are in here this morning. Make sure everyone likes the video while you're in here. And again, if you're on Twitter, go ahead and like and retweet. Help us out and do all that good stuff. So this is how we are going to do it. We're going to go game by game. We'll talk about the game a little bit, and then we'll let Pat break some stuff down, and then he will give you his bets piece by piece here as we go forward to get us right for this weekend, because I could use some spending money. I don't know about everybody else.
Absolutely. I hit a little parlay on the Thursday night game last night, so we're up to start the weekend. We always love that.
All right, there we go. So I'm going to start this national slate here. I want to start with this Georgia and Alabama game. So this is the biggest game of the weekend. Obviously, Georgia is favored -1.5 going into Alabama. And I thought we had a good discussion this week, so I want to push that to you. So Kalen DeBoer, this is his first. We could count Wisconsin, I guess. We all felt like he was going to go in there and take care of business, which they did. This is the first of the mighty Titans of the SEC battle here for Caleb DeBoer as he tries to get Alabama to win. I pushed this to Ron and the crew earlier in the week on how much of an importance do you think this game is for Caleb DeBoer? Because if you think about this, and this was my angle, we know Georgia has been at the top of the mountain the last couple seasons. We know that, but we know the one team that would give them problems was Alabama. And that's the one team they struggled to be. They run through everybody else. Alabama, they'd be like, we might or might not win that game. So on our way to a national title. Caleb DeBoer walks in his first season. People are like, I don't know how it's going to be. My thoughts was if he finds a way to win this game and says, okay, nothing has changed. Nick Saban's out the door, but I am still here and we are still rolling and we are still going to be the king of the SEC. Obviously, got to throw Texas in there now. But as it stands, we will be the king of the SEC, topping Georgia. What that would do for the momentum of his program. I would say, how much of an importance do you put on this game for Caleb DeBoer? I know it's his first game. If he loses, everybody's going to be like, okay, it's first time in Georgia. But if he gets this win, I think the momentum goes crazy from there. NIL is going to pour in, and you will not see another season where guys walk out the door the way they did this offseason. So I'll get your thoughts on that. What do you think about this Alabama-Georgia game and Caleb DeBoer's pressure he got coming in?
I honestly totally agree with you. I think this game is huge for Bama and huge for Kalen DeBoer. And I think if they win and they win convincingly, especially, that it we might be looking at the start of another Bama dynasty, like what we
Yeah.
saw with Saban, because we saw what DeBoer did with Washington and kind of the magical run they had last year. And we've seen what they've done this year. I mean, they're blowing everyone out. Again, the Wisconsin game, ended up not being a great game because Tyler Van Dyke got hurt. But I think that because of the way Georgia has looked susceptible against Kentucky earlier this year, if Bama comes out and they beat them, oh man, you're going to talk about Georgia fans are going to start, oh shit, we can't beat Bama regardless of who's their head coach, and they're going to get kind of pushed back into that. You're not the top dog of the SEC anymore. And I think if Bama loses this game, you're going to have, especially if they lose badly to Georgia, I think it might spiral for them, for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer, because then you're going to have the pressure of the media and the fans, and even, from the top of the program being like, oh shit, this is the massive drop off from Saban to DeBoer. So that's why I think it's crucial for DeBoer to at least keep this game close. If they lose a close game, that stuff, goes out the window. But if they get blown out, I think you might see a crazy overreaction from the Bama faithful in terms of, oh man, where's our program going now that Saban's gone? And that's why if he is able to pull off a win, I think it's huge, because then they're like, all right, we're good to go. And they're, like you said, you're not going to see that drop off from the roster the way we saw this year with the transfer portal. So it is crucial for DeBoer. And honestly, I think Bama gets it done this weekend.
Ah, there you go. So Georgia is favored -1.5. Before we talk about where you would place your money, I think we know now. You got to spoil it a little bit for us. But there's always been chinks in the Georgia armor. We all saw that Kentucky game there. But we do know Georgia to turn up in big games. They always have this week 3 game where they're like, we'll sleepwalk in and we'll, barely get it done against Vanderbilt. And then we'll come out and blow out Tennessee the next week. And it's like, where was that last week? A little bit of Urban Meyer sneaking into the program there. But for Georgia, how big is this in getting their confidence back? We know Texas is out there. That's kind of – Texas and Tennessee are kind of the vampires out there in the SEC. We don't know what they're really going to do. They're looking good. I would throw Ole Miss in there as well. Yep. These teams are looking good early in the season. They're putting up a lot of points. For Georgia, do you think they turn up in this game and say, okay, we're back to the same Georgia and the big games will turn up? That was a blip. Or do you really feel like, and you kind of spoiled it, but Alabama has a good way to get in here and make them chase points and get this victory done?
I mean, I think having the bye week beforehand helps Georgia for sure in terms of getting their mojo back and trying to find their swagger on offense again. But I just feel like they're missing their big time players from a year ago, and Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey especially. I mean, their weapons on offense aren't as good as we've seen in the past, and I think that's the biggest reason. Like I think both teams are solid on defense. We know that both defenses are going to show up. I just think Alabama has the better weapons on offense to get the job done. And I think between Ryan Williams, Isaiah Bond, Jalen Milroe, what he can do with his legs, if he can scramble and get out of the pocket and make plays with his legs, I think Georgia might be done for, because I think he's the biggest X factor in this game. If he's able to do that, I think Bama wins.
Yeah, I think this is a scary game for both teams here, because it's like if they lose to them, you just know what's over the horizon with the other SEC teams, especially with Georgia. They have Texas coming up here. So I would say for me, the way I'm kind of feeling on this early, I might ride with Georgia. I think they're going to turn up in a big game, but I am also a betting man and can be swayed at that. So Georgia comes in on the road -1.5. Pat, where would you put your money this weekend on the Georgia-Alabama game?
My money is on Bama. I like Bama as a home dog. I think personally, value-wise, the value's there. This is the first time you would get, if the line closed like this is the first time you're going to get Alabama as a home underdog since November 3rd, 2007 against LSU, the Matt Flynn-led LSU Tigers, where they were 6.5-point underdogs. But in their last 9 matchups, Georgia is 1-8 against Bama. So historically, like you said earlier, Alabama's had their number, and yes, how much of that had to do with Saban, we'll find out on Saturday. But I think that Bama is still that team that Georgia struggles to get over the hump against. So I'm gonna go Bama this weekend. I think they got the dudes on offense. I think historically, the data backs it up. And shit, they're home underdogs. Give me Bama at plus money. Let's go.
Here we go. So everybody, get your FanDuels out. Go ahead and put your bets in now for Alabama over Georgia this weekend. You heard it here. Probably not first, but we'll call it first. We're the first ones up in the morning on a Friday, letting you know what's good. Okay,
sure.
so moving over to the Big Ten, and we'll get to hop around some conferences here, which I do like for this national state. The big game this weekend is Illinois at Penn State. So the books tell me this is not a big game. Penn State opens up as a -17.5 dog here. They're obviously everybody believes they're going to get it done. Penn State has been one of the top couple teams in the Big Ten year in, year out. But Illinois, these last few years have shown like, hey, I don't know what y'all know about Illinois. But we got more than Chicago here. We can play some football. Unlike the Bears, we will tackle. We will play some good defense. We will find ways to stay in games. So what are you looking for this weekend at Penn State versus Illinois?
So this is one of those weird games. And this is the whiteout game, right?
I do believe, yeah. I believe
it's Penn State's whiteout game, which is funny because, like, I was talking about it with someone the other day. It seems like because for a while there, Penn State was always scheduling either Michigan or Ohio State as the whiteout game year in and year out. But then they're like, they couldn't flaunt that, our whiteout game record. They had a losing record at one point in the whiteout game. So now you're starting to see like, oh, let's make Minnesota the whiteout game, and then Iowa the whiteout game, or Illinois this year. So, but again, Illinois looks like they could be legit. It's that game last week against Nebraska was telling. Their defense looks solid. Granted, it was against a freshman quarterback in Dylan Raiola. So I think definitely Raiola, succumbed to the pressure there. His first real test as a freshman. So this is a much bigger test for the Illinois defense going against a new and improved Penn State offense than what we've seen in years past. Drew Aller looks the part. Penn State is third in the country in pass production, which is crazy considering this was a team that couldn't move the ball downfield last year. And then they have those two dynamic running backs. So I get why the spread is what it is, but that's a lot of points, especially in a primetime game where Illinois is undefeated and probably playing the best football that they've had in a long time. It just seems like a lot of points to give up.
Yeah, I agree there. I definitely feel like Penn State has the edge here, especially offensively. They've looked much, much better than I thought. I was wondering because we all had talked about Penn State for years saying, oh, Drew Aller's junior year will be the year that these guys really make some noise. Now, unfortunately for that, also, you have USC and Oregon walk into the conference to make that road just a little bit tougher to get in that Big Ten championship game. But it looks like some of those predictions were right. This team looks up. They look vibe in their top 10. They play pretty solid defense. We know we'll get that, but they can score some points here. I just look at that spread of -17.5, and I'm like, I've seen this movie before. There's no way they go in and just, blow them out. So that's where it worries me. So I will say, Pat, where would you put your money for Penn State, Illinois this weekend?
So honestly, this is one of the games that I'm probably going to pass just because I think I see both sides of, like you said, we've seen how the story plays out before. Yeah. Like James Franklin can't win a big game to save his life. Now, can he cover 17.5? That's a different story. I don't know. That just seems like a lot of points. But it's funny because historically, actually, Franklin is 64% covering a double-digit spread in his career. So there's a good mark when the spread is double digits for Penn State. Okay. But I just don't know. A big game, that's a lot of points against a team that's playing as good as anyone in the conference right now. That's probably a pass for me, but I would lean Illinois plus 17.5. I don't trust James Franklin enough in a big game to win by, honestly, this would be one of those games where Vegas has it right on the money. I could literally see it being 34-17, and that hook is what gets you. So this is a pass for me, but I would lean Illinois with the points.
I would do the same. If I'm doing my parlay here, I'm taking Alabama money line just to get that juice flowing. I would take Illinois plus 17.5
There we go.
going in here and going for that 10K weekend as we get started. I don't know if I would survive the weekend if I won 10K early enough on a Saturday, but trying to get that. Maybe I'll save some for next weekend and we will get there. Okay, so let's roll to the next one. We got Notre Dame at Louisville. So Louisville rolls into the Fighting Irish at Notre Dame is at home against Louisville as -6.5 there. So they are the favorites here. So a little backstory here. Early in the season, Notre Dame loses a game they have no business losing to a non-Power 5 team, but they bounce back. We get the early win, we get the middle loss, and then they bounce back. We're like, okay, Notre Dame is playing some football. So this team is a little inconsistent. They're worrying me. But as far as Louisville, we've known them, and I talked about this earlier in the week. I said Louisville is kind of the only team in the ACC where I feel like can be a measuring stick for how good this Miami team is. They've been the only one that's been pretty consistent the last few years to say, okay, like when Miami plays Louisville, we'll know if it's really a top 10 team or were they overhyped still off of that Florida victory because they haven't really shown much since against lower fear opponents. So Notre Dame -6.5 here. Pat, what are your thoughts at Louisville rolling into the Fighting Irish?
My thoughts are I think Notre Dame is playing like pissed off football after they had that brutal showing against Northern Illinois a couple weeks ago. They came out, destroyed Purdue by I forget what the final score of that game was, but that was 30. A blowout.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they're playing really good football right now, and I think that they're going to continue this, and because they know that they have an easy enough schedule where 11-1, again, it depends on what the playoff committee values in terms of playing in or out of a conference for them, but they still are very much in the playoff discussion. So I think a statement win for them this week is huge in terms of, how the committee views them later in the season. And given the fact that Louisville, like you said, has been a constant presence in the ACC, always seems to be ranked at the end of the year. They're always kind of like that consistent team that's going to have 9-10 wins. So this is big for Notre Dame. And I think that I personally, I think they win big this weekend.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. I was like, Notre Dame here, they got a chance to get another top 15 win. They got USC obviously at the end of the season, near the end there. So I think they have enough juice to maybe get back into this playoff race. Do you feel, as a prediction now, do you feel like Notre Dame will sneak into the playoffs, or do you feel like if they go 11-1, do you think they sneak in, or do you think they'll be just looking out like, damn, we should join the ACC?
I think if I pull up their schedule right now, I think if they go 11-1 the rest of the way, I think that's good enough to make the playoffs because that'll mean wins versus Louisville. That would mean a win versus the Florida State doesn't mean much anymore. Yeah. So really it comes down to Louisville and then USC, the last game of the year. So you have two wins against top 25 teams, 11-1. You got to see, where where Northern Illinois ends the season at, because how much do you value that loss? But I think absolutely 11-1 Notre Dame should get into the playoffs if they beat Louisville and USC pretty handedly as well. At 6.5, I think Notre Dame covers that because I think they know that that's what they need to do in order to have a shot at the playoffs. Is they got to win convincingly against a good team like Louisville, and it's also a revenge game because they lost to Louisville last year. So I think that's also in the back of Marcus Freeman's mind.
Yeah, and I think that Texas A&M game will still have some juice when they look at it later in the season, because usually, how the SEC goes. When you beat teams, if they're not terrible, then you get credit for that win. They get in 3-9, but they'd be like, yeah, they were number 21 at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll throw you some juice on that one. So Notre Dame -6.5 here. You're taking Notre Dame comfortably.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Notre Dame covers the points. Some historical stuff since 2017, Notre Dame is 9-1 straight up and 7-3 against the spread in September when playing with one loss or more. So they, when they get that early season loss, they seem to get, pissed off and start playing their best football early on. So I think we follow that trend this weekend. I think Notre Dame -6.5 is a safe bet.
All right, Notre Dame. They're going to class. They're reading the Bible. They're practicing hard. They're ready to go this weekend. Right here first. So
Absolutely.
that's third on your parlay. Take Notre Dame -6.5. All right, so we're moving to the almost forgotten at this point Big 12 as they're holding on with a couple ranked teams in here. We have Oklahoma State at Kansas State here. Kansas State is -6.5. Kansas State is a little scary after what happened with BYU. So I am a little worried here, but this is one not everybody has at the top of their attention. But Kansas State is -6.5 against Oklahoma State. Pat, do you have thoughts here? And where would you place your money with Oklahoma State being the higher ranked team going on the road to Kansas State this weekend?
It's so weird because the Big 12 is a conference where it's just like any team can beat anyone week in and week out. Like there's no top dog. It's like they're all just like aggressively mediocre. It's like you saw it last week, Oklahoma State and Utah, and Utah came out on top. But it's like, so is Utah the top dog? Like I don't know. It's so hard to tell.
No clue.
I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State to bounce back. I think they were kind of like the preseason favorite with Ollie Gordon, who really hasn't gotten going yet. I think he's due. I think it's one of those games where I'm taking the points with Oklahoma State. They're getting 4.5 on the road. Kansas State had this, the bad game against BYU last week. It's so tough with these teams, man, because historically there's no defense in the Pac or in the Big 12. So you honestly take the over for real. Like don't worry about who's going to win. Take the over.
I'm with you there. I have limited confidence in Kansas State going into this game. I haven't seen Oklahoma State play too much, but that plus, honestly, that over right there. Nobody's playing the defense. I'm with you, but I would probably take that plus 4.5 for Oklahoma State rolling in there in the higher ranked team as the underdog, and that's where I would go from there. So staying.
Looking into it, the over really is the bet because Kansas State is 69th in the country in total defense and 106th in defense versus the pass. And Oklahoma State actually throws the ball pretty well, 43rd in the nation. Yeah. And then Oklahoma State's defense is just dog shit all the way around. They're 88th in the country against the run and 98th against the pass. So I'm serious. I'm taking the over in that game. Add that to the parlay.
All right, so we're on our parlay pick. Do not pick either team.
No spread, just the over.
Take the over on the spread, and you will make your money there. Staying in the Big 12, we got a couple more on the slate. It's a big weekend for them. So we have Arizona, one of the early favorites of the Big 12, versus going into Utah, who is the consistency of the Big 12, and they haven't been there for that long. So Utah is -7.5 this weekend. A little rocky on this because another one I'm like, I don't know which Arizona is going to turn up in this game. Utah is giving me a little bit of worries without a little bit of worries early. They are -7.5. Do you see anything in this Arizona-Utah game that makes you go one way or another on this pick?
I mean, I'm going to lean Utah just because, like you said, the inconsistencies of Arizona, especially on the defensive side. I mean, they're 103rd in the country against the run, whereas Utah can move the ball pretty well on the ground. They're 54th in the country in rushing production. Both teams, I mean, that matchup between Utah's defense and Arizona's offense is going to be intriguing. Yeah. Obviously, Arizona has that elite quarterback receiver combo with Fafita and McMillan. And I think Utah, has always had they're kind of the staple for that good defense under Kyle Whittingham. So I think Utah's defense will do enough to neutralize that passing attack from Arizona. And then I just don't trust Arizona's defense enough. I think Utah, especially being at home, should cover 7.5.
Yeah, I think this is a big time game for McMillan. We all talk about him as one of the best receivers coming into college football. I think he's a great athlete, but I think this is really a chance for him to prove again that, hey, I can come out, I can do numbers and try to will his Arizona team to a victory here going in Utah, which probably is the biggest game on the slate here for the Big 12. So this is one. I will take Utah. I know they're consistent. I know what team I'm going to get. I know which defense I'm going to get. And I feel like week in and week out, they continue to prove their consistency in this Big 12 era, which is just going a little crazy. I didn't expect to cover 3 games for the Big 12 this weekend, but that's what we're doing. So I will take Utah. So put that on your parlay, -7.5. Okay, rolling on to what could be the biggest game in college football this weekend. Why is that? Because Colorado is playing, and
Of course.
we see through the first 4 weeks. Pat, I want to ask you because I asked Ron this question earlier in the week: is Colorado the most exciting team in college football?
I mean, you honestly, you have an argument there. That game last week was crazy, dude. I mean, coming down to the wire against Baylor, that Hail Mary, which was like the craziest Hail Mary I've ever seen, because it wasn't like it was a jump ball Hail Mary. It was a Hail Mary to a diving receiver in the end zone. Like oh, absolutely. They're the most exciting team in college football, I'd say.
That's it. Yeah, the DB slips and he makes it all possible. Travis Hunter is playing out of his mind. We talked about him winning the Heisman. I think through 5 weeks, he is the current Heisman leader. I think he would win if the vote ended today. But as far as this weekend goes and the rest of the season, do you think Travis Hunter can keep this up? Because he's playing out of his mind right now. He's playing some big interceptions on defense. He's causing fumbles. He's catching touchdowns. Shador is like he's out there somewhere. I'm throwing it. Do you think Travis Hunter could possibly win the Heisman this season and keep up this pace he's got going right now?
Oh, if he does, you absolutely have to you at least put him in the Final Four. I think he's like plus 1,700 right now, so definitely worth the sprinkle for sure. But it's crazy to me to see him like put up this level of play on both sides of the ball without any rest. Like his endurance is unbelievable. He's posting like some of his highest track speeds on the year have come late in games when he's playing both sides of the ball. I mean, it's crazy what he's doing. I don't know if he can keep it up for a full season. I mean, it's still only September.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be playing, both sides of the ball. If he can keep up this level of production, absolutely, you have to give him the Heisman. I don't care what Colorado's record is. If he's the best corner and if he's a top 5 corner and a top 5 receiver in the league, like you got to give it to him. That's just crazy. We'll never see anything like that again.
Yeah, hopefully they just don't make him practice during the weekend. Yeah, take the weekend. Yeah. We'll see you on Saturday, man. Just get your rest in.
Yeah, rest up, ice up, hydrate. You'll be good to go Saturday.
Well, Colorado is riding this hype train going in the UCF, but the bookies are saying not so fast, my friend. UCF is minus 14.5. So Travis Hunter will need to pull out on some Heisman statistics this weekend to get the win. But we're not here for Colorado to win. We're here for the best bet. So UCF minus 14.5. Where are you placing your money this weekend for this game?
My gut is telling me UCF. As much as Colorado is the exciting team to watch, I just feel like this is a trap game for them coming off that crazy win last week. UCF is not a bad football team, and they're like a dark horse, I think, to win the Big 12. And I just haven't seen enough from Colorado in the prime era that makes me believe that they can actually, play a good football team. Because Baylor's. So here's the thing: like last week, that win against Baylor was amazing, but Baylor's not that good. So it's like it's really not that much of an impressive win. Like, yes, it was exciting, but it wasn't impressive. So, again, this is one of those games where I don't have a strong feeling just because 14.5 is a lot. And I hate those 14.5 point spreads, similar to like the 17.5 or 7.5, where it's like Vegas is so money with those where Colorado will lose by 14 on the dot and they'll get you by the hook. But I do think if gun to my head, I would take UCF minus 14.5. I just don't trust Colorado enough to win a big game.
All right, so the smart money here is on UCF. If I had a bet in here, I think I fall for the hype, man. I think I'll take Colorado plus 14.5. I think the pros and Dion on that side will find a way to keep it somewhat interesting and somewhat close. I just hope this is not that Oregon game of last season, which I knew they were going to get blown out going into that game.
Oh, yeah.
But this one makes it a little more realistic, but this may be the one to break the camel's back if they take a good-sized loss here. I think if they lose by 17 or 21, something like that, the hype will quickly leave Boulder, Colorado. So I will take them plus 14.5, but that's not the smart bet. The smart bet here is to take UCF minus 14.5 going in there. So that is our current national week. We're going to hop into Ohio State, Michigan State in a second here, but I want everybody to like that video. Go ahead and retweet and all that good stuff. You are on Twitter, and shout out to my guy Ron. He wasn't feeling too well today, but we are holding it down for him. So I hope he has his FanDuel out. I hope he's getting in on these bets.
Lock
so
in the plays, Ron. I'll text him, make sure he's got the winning bets for this weekend.
You might need some Theraflu. So if he gets in a couple of these, then he should be good to go.
Hell yes.
For the weekend. So obviously what we came here to talk about, Ohio State versus Michigan State. So Pat, I want to start with this before we even hop into this game. Ohio State has finished their non-conference slate. How are you feeling about this team? We talked about this with our guest Anandar yesterday. He had some thoughts on how he thought Ohio State looked. Not too much to criticize going off the non-conference. I think they played pretty well. But what have you seen? Anything has stuck out to you? And do you have any concerns about Ohio State as we rev it up for conference play?
I mean, on the offensive side, I have very little concern. I mean, they've gotten better and better each week. Rushing the ball has been, clearly the strong suit of this offense, which we all expected and which will continue to be throughout the season as we go along here. Will Howard looks good enough. Obviously, you'd like to see maybe a little more consistency on the deep balls, which is his biggest knock early on in the season. Yeah. But he's other than the one interception last week, he's just done a good ball of keeping the offense in rhythm, keeping them, focused. Not trying to do too much, but also knowing when to create with his legs and, and get out of the box and scramble when needed to. So I've been impressed with him. The defense is what is a little worrisome after last week. And I don't want to be like nitpicky, but they just looked a little slow against Marshall, which is concerning. But what's good about this schedule is that it's allowing like a slow ramp up to that Oregon game, right? Because we had two MAC opponents to start the year. Then you go to Marshall, who's kind of a step above that. And now you got Michigan State, who's a lower end Big Ten team, but it's still a Big Ten team. So I hope the defense looks better out the gate than how they looked against Marshall last week, who was able to move the ball on them kind of, 4 yards, 5 yards at a time.
Yeah.
I think if they can get home to the quarterback, which is big, and I know Ryan Day's talked about a lot this week, and how Marshall counteracted that was they would just get the ball out real quick RPOs, quick short passes. And I think if Michigan State were smart, they would follow that suit. And then it's just, all right, then make them throw the ball deep and make them push the ball downfield and, force them. If that's how Michigan State wants to attack us, then play man coverage, press coverage, load the box. If they're going to run the ball, make them throw the ball down the field to beat you. Because I don't think Michigan State is able to do that. Childs is a decent enough quarterback, but he's also thrown 8 interceptions on the year. So I don't think they trust him enough to really test this Ohio State secondary. So I think you're going to see a lot of short passes and run game from them. So I just want to see a little bit of improvement from last week is my biggest, I wouldn't even say concern, but what I'm watching, intently for tomorrow.
Okay, so let me ask some questions about that defense before we get into this preview. Obviously, we know the secondary is as good as advertised. I don't think anybody has any worry about the corners and safeties. They're flying down there, making plays. Caleb Downs looks good. He looks like a nice, good fit into this defense. Worth the price of admission for him. I think the concerns is on the defensive line, the pass rush, and how this linebacker room is going to shake out and who's getting the most of the minutes here. So I will start with the defensive line. I think we're all pretty confident Tyleik Williams walks back here. As far as the run stop game, I feel like we're pretty confident there that teams aren't really going to be able to run on us that efficiently week in and week out. I think the more question here is the pass rush. Do you have a concern with the pass rush personnel? Do you feel like, I know a lot of people have been out for Caden Curry. Maybe he should get more of a go at it instead of JTT, who's left a little bit more to be desired. Do you want CJ Hicks be able to step in and help rush off the edge? Where are you with the pass rush of Ohio State as it currently stands?
Yeah, I mean, I like how they've gotten at least a little bit of creativity early on in the season, adding that Rushman package with Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry alongside JTT and Jack. Jack's been great so far. I think if he keeps going the way he is, he'll be for sure a top 15 pick, top 20 pick next year's draft. But you're right. It's just so concerning with JTT, the lack of production we've seen from him early on. And just watching film breakdown that Zach did this past week for the Marshall game.
Yeah.
The quickness off the ball is not there from him. Like you see off the snap, Jack Sawyer's like 2 yards deeper than JTT, and they're both. It's just his quickness is not there just yet, and so I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of Caden Curry. Maybe like you said, CJ Hicks too. Obviously, the linebacker room is pretty solid right now with Cody and Sonny. I know Sonny didn't have a great game last week, but I think those are your two top guys going forward. So yeah, if that's a way to get CJ on the field, then bring him in a package where he's just getting after the quarterback, because I think. It's everyone's biggest concern right now is the pass rush, and I think this week will be a big test for them against the first Big Ten opponent to see if they can get home.
Yeah, I would love to see a little bit more. I know quarterbacks have been trying to get that ball out and not give them a lot of time, especially the way Jack Sawyer has been playing. But I'm like, look, everybody's going to do that. Nobody wants the pass rush to get to them. They're going to try to get the ball out early and not let these defensive ends, although Kenyatta Jackson in there, get one-on-ones, and Mitchell Melton, who has shown up and played. We've had years of hype for him, and it looks like it's finally coming true here. The way he's played, especially in that last game, I thought he was a monster on that defensive line. So I would like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see us to get to the passer. I think this is a good weekend. Michigan State obviously has some chinks in the armor. We've seen them take a loss, so we know there's definitely some vulnerability there. Moving on to the linebacker room, you talked about it, and I guess I can start there. Sonny Styles did not have a great game this past weekend, but if we look at kind of what we've got in the first 4 weeks, I'm pretty content with what I've seen at him at linebacker. I feel like there's going to be some mistakes, but I feel like you've seen some good things. We know he's good in pass coverage. I think he needs to tackle a little bit better, but I felt like that from the linebackers. Really, we see Arvo Reese overrun some plays. We've seen CJ Hicks miss some tackles. We need them to tackle better. Cody Simon is the consistent. We know he will be around. I think Arvo Reese has been the best player. I think he should be number one on that list, and you put everybody else around him. Sonny Styles and CJ Hicks kind of become question marks. What do you think we should really do with those two? Do you just ride out Sonny Styles? Because I would say, hey, he may have a bad game here or there, but later in the season, he's going to really pick it up. What would you do with this linebacker room as it currently sits, and how would you divvy out these snaps?
I agree with what you're saying about Sonny Styles. I think, he didn't look great last week. I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive, like you said, tackling. He's great in coverage, but we had no issues with him the first 2 weeks. So now, just because he had one bad game, I'm not ready to just, you know what, the Sonny Styles train isn't working. However, the way Arvell Reese is playing, he definitely needs to be on the field more. So whether that's you're incorporating 3 linebacker sets to get him out there with Cody Simon or Sonny Styles. Otherwise, you're going to have to sub him out for either one. And I think right now, Cody Simon's played his way to getting the majority of those snaps. So you know what? If you're going to if you want to rotate Sonny and Arvell, I'm fine with that right now, the way Arvell's playing. But I still think they both need to see plenty of action on the field.
Yeah, I've liked the way they've rotated. They've rotated linebackers here. They for once we've seen some rotational defense. We've seen a lot of guys play, and we've seen even CJ Hicks through his struggles. They say, hey, like, we're gonna ride with you. We're gonna make sure you get in, get the proper reps to continue to get better. So hopefully we get some good linebacker play this weekend against Michigan State, and we can put that behind us. So Ohio State on the road, first time this season, minus 23.5 here. Michigan State, we've seen Boston College go in and beat them, so we know Ohio State shouldn't really have a lot of worries as far as going in here, but covering the spread is always a different story. So Ohio State, minus 23.5. Do you think they get it done this weekend in their first Big Ten road game?
Absolutely. We've covered 7 in a row against Michigan State, and it's not stopping this weekend. Give me the Buckeyes minus 23.5. I just think that Michigan State they're just they're no match for Ohio State right now. Their defense is suspect at best against the pass. Rushing defense has been fine early on in the season, but again, they haven't really played much. But more so, I just don't trust Michigan State offensively to score enough points to hang with the Buckeyes. I think this Buckeye defense is too good. Michigan State is 101st in the nation in pass efficiency with Aiden Childs, a quarterback, and they're only 57th in the country rushing the ball, whereas Ohio State has the number 1 rush defense, the number 1 overall defense, number 7 pass defense. So it's just the numbers tell me that Michigan State isn't going to be able to score enough to hang. I see this final score looking like 38-10, something like that. So I think Ohio State minus 23.5 is the play for sure.
All right, you heard it here first. Hey, is there a player you're watching this week? Anybody to keep your eye on? You look at this Ohio State team. Is there any person you're like, all right, let me see how they play this weekend? Give me a player to watch for this weekend in Ohio State Michigan State game.
I mean, honestly, I'm excited to see what Will Howard does in his first road game as a Buckeye, first conference game, and I guess specifically how that duo of him and Jeremiah Smith look this weekend. I think it's both of their first experiences on the road as Buckeyes, first conference games for both of them. If those two look good and look comfortable, because it's a night game, that atmosphere is going to be bumping because that's Michigan State always kind of looks forward to this game every year, even though we've blown them out the last two. They're always due for, playing a close game. But so the atmosphere should be there for Saturday night. But I think I'm curious to see how Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith look. If those two look calm and collected, then I think that'll be a good sign moving forward, especially looking ahead to that Oregon game being on the road as well.
Yeah, my eyes will be back on the defensive line this weekend. I will look at JTT to see if a little bit of criticism. Let's see if he bounces back. Let's see if his get off, because we know he has it. He just is like, I'm saving it. Penn State's coming up.
Penn State, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta keep the juice in the tank. I can't use it all. My guy Troy brought up, and I think this is a good question to ask. We don't get much injury update reports. Tyleik Williams was out last week, but I thought Tywone Malone, I thought Caden McDonald, I thought those guys looked really good in there in the defensive line. So behind Tyleik, who are you looking at in that defensive line to say, okay, let's see if they can be consistent this week? We saw them bring it last week. We're in Big Ten play now. Is it Tywone Malone? And you're like, okay, he could be the guys. Caden McDonald, who's kind of your next man up on that defensive line room?
Honestly, Caden McDonald has been my favorite so far to watch early on in the season. I know he was getting a lot of hype. Sonny Styles spoke highly of him during training camp, and it's showing on the field. He's I think he's that the next guy up in terms of if Tyleik is out again. Is he out again this week? Is that official?
I have not checked the availability report, so we're just rumor milling it right now. I don't know if he is out, but when they make it mandated,
yeah, even if he is in, whether he's in or out, I'm excited to see what Caden McDonald can do this weekend.
We won't know. We won't know until tomorrow at kickoff.
Exactly.
They're not going to tell us. But I'm with you. If he is out, Caden McDonald, I thought was maybe looked one of maybe the top three through the first part of the season. Tywone Malone gave me some questions about that last game because I thought he played extremely well. But I'm with you. I think Caden McDonald is the next guy in there. But we will see. Hopefully Tyleik Williams is back and we can roll forward with good health in this team. So that is your weekend slate. Let me run you down these bets one more time in case you missed it, in case you came in a little late. Pat is going to give you the parlay to make that 10K this weekend. So we are taking Alabama plus 1.5. We are taking we're taking Illinois. No, you say skip over that game.
Yeah, I said I'm not crazy about that. I would lean Illinois, but honestly, that's not one of my best bets. Bama money line for sure. Screw the plus 1.5. Give me money line.
Give me money line. Bama
money line. By one, I send it back.
I am taking Illinois plus a 17.5, so you can put that on me if it does fail. We are both taking Notre Dame minus 6.5 this weekend. Doing that. Oklahoma State, Kansas State. We're not taking anybody. We're taking the over.
Take the over. 57.5. I like that. Both teams are scoring 30 this weekend.
57.5. We are taking the over. Arizona versus Utah. We're taking Utah at minus 7.5.
Yes,
Pat
sir.
is taking UCF minus 14.5. I am riding the hot stick with Colorado. I think Travis Hunter and the boys find some way to keep it close this weekend. So I'll take the plus 14.5. But the smart money is take UCF minus 14.5. And Ohio State versus Michigan State. First game on the road, Pat says not much to worry about. We were taking Ohio State minus 23.5 that weekend. So that's your weekend slate. Go ahead and make some money this weekend. Pat, you got anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Man, I think we touched it all, man. We went through all those big games. I'm excited, man. This is like now that we're in conference play, like especially with the Bama Georgia game this weekend, like it just feels like college football is truly back now, and we've got like such a loaded slate. I'm just excited to watch all the games this weekend, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, make sure you find multiple TVs because they play the same as Ohio State this week at the same time. So make sure you're at a place, multiple TVs, or have your phone, have some so you can see and keep track.
Need the quad box up.
Yeah, keep track of both games. So appreciate my guy Pat joining me. Appreciate the chat. Y'all were lively this morning, so hopefully we make you some money going into this weekend. If you are on Twitter, go ahead and hit that like and retweet on that video. Let it get moving so some people can see it. And also, if you're in the community, do the same. And if you're here, make sure you hit that like button here. Pat, where can the people find you? If you don't hit the transfer portal anytime soon and just end up, quitting in the middle of the season on your guys over there at Minister Sports, where can we find you on the daily?
Yeah, so Menace to Sports, Monday through Friday. You guys know the deal. Me, Chris, and Ainsley have a show that goes out for members only on YouTube, Menace to Sports page. So that's fun if you want to check that out. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at Pat_KHILL8. And on Instagram, Pat_CAHILL8. That's those are the socials. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, and hopefully Ron has not hit the portal, but he is not hard to find. But he will be back this week. He's got plenty of responsibility this weekend with pregame show. So make sure you catch him on the college football pregame show every Saturday morning with my guy Chris Drew over there at Menace. He will also shows up on Juck's post game, and he also does Bleacher Report. So he's got a full slate this weekend. So we'll see if Ron can bounce back there.
Yeah.
And if you want to find me, I am C-Boy Quentin on Twitter. I'm Flying Johnson on both Instagram and TikTok. And I've been putting out some movie content at Minor League Films. So that is here on YouTube and at TikTok as well. That is all I got. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I got all the chats and everything. And Doreen says my other Dublin son, Pat. So shout out to him for showing up.
My Dublin mom.
Shout out to him for holding it down. Well, appreciate everybody coming through another episode of the Buckeye Roast. You know how this goes when we ended. OH.
I-O.
Let's do it.
From my hometown.